Everyone. My name is Lance Allred. I'm one of the senior counselors here at Central High. Um, I will be running my mouth tonight, and Miss Ayers and Miss Caruth will be monitoring the chat. Um, you can see how we're broken down by last name. Last name's A through G. That's Miss Ayers, and you see her email. Last name's H through P for the 12th grade, and there I am in my email. And then for the 12th grade, last name Q through Z, that's Miss Caruth and her email. Before we get started, I want to piggyback on something that's already been said, and it is it really goes without saying is that how different this year is. And I think my biggest concern is that some of our seniors, of course, are upset. The senior year is not what they expected, what they planned. And there's some anger, there's some depression, anxiety centered around that. And what we're seeing with some students is this kind of wanting to shut down, or the anxiety or the depression or the anger is a roadblock. And I don't want them to get stuck behind that roadblock and not be thinking about a year from now when all of this is just a memory. Like every other senior, every other year, what we're doing right now will affect what is happening a year from now. So got to pay attention to what those goals are. On behalf of the other counselors and myself, I really appreciate your patience. This meeting is normally in September, and of course it's been pushed back. So I do appreciate that. And seniors, I think Mr. McCullough even said this, you've not been forgotten. We miss you. I know it's a very isolated feeling out there, so don't hesitate to reach out. Connect with us, connect with your teachers. Any way that we can help you, of course, let us know. So the first thing is we want to get across the stage. So just a reminder, we go through this every year, but each year it's like some of our seniors get it the first 3 times. So in order to graduate, you have to have 22 credits. So we get that part, but it has to be the right 22. They are very specific about what the 22 are, and these are listed. And of course, just like science is 3 units of science, well, 2 of those have to be biology and chemistry. The third is flexible as far as physical, environmental, or anatomy. Social studies, it's not a random group of social studies. One of them has to be U.S. history. One of them has to be the economics and government combination, unless you have a substitute for it, like ROTC for the government. So keep that in mind. We have these questions every year about, I have these 22 credits, can I just stop? Can I be done? And no, you can't. And in most cases, you probably only needed 3 credits to complete this part of the 22. That's the other part. But in order to be a full-time student with Shelby County Schools, you have to have 5 credit-bearing classes. Now, those can be a mix of classes inside and outside the building, like dual enrollment, Memphis Virtual School, and here, but we've got to have 5 credit-bearing classes. And that's been a real difficult pill to swallow with remote learning. But we still have to keep that in place, and that will be the same way for the second semester. Honors diploma. So the 22 credits, I'm going to get my regular diploma. For an honors diploma, the honors diploma is determined by your ACT subscores or an SAT equivalent. So English 18, reading 22, math 22, science 23. If you reach those subscores at any point during your ACT career, you will get an honors diploma. It does not matter if you're an optional program, doesn't matter if you've had honors classes throughout your time. It is not related to the GPA. Another category for diplomas is Tennessee Graduate with Distinction. These are the categories. You can kind of look through those. I encourage you, if you fall in one of these categories, to follow up with your counselor toward the end of the year so that we make sure that we've got the right information on your diploma. So this designation on this slide is kind of that old optional seal that we used to have for our optional students. This recognition is for those students who have completed this combination of 12 honors or advanced classes. Advanced placements listed here, but it also includes dual enrollment and dual credit. So those are kind of the types of the diplomas that we're looking at. I don't spend a whole lot of time on graduation requirements because to me that's the minimum. And most of you are going to get it. When I say most, I mean our goal is 100%. If we don't reach it, we'll still have 99%, something like that. So we don't spend a whole lot of time on it. I'd rather jump ahead to the other part of your year, which is planning for next year and beyond. So first thing we're going to talk about, of course, is college applications. College applications have started. They opened up August 1st. And I know some of you are on fire, and it's amazing to see that even in this remote environment, I have 100 transcript requests on my link. I've got multiple kids in the Common App and Cindy to You and all these different portals. So I know you're out there doing this. So that's great, and I appreciate it. For those of you who have not started, this is kind of the way to think about it. We do, as counselors, we play a central part. We are going to guide you, we can advise you, but at the end of the day, you're the one in charge. The student's in charge, the family's in charge of these applications because we want you to be applying to schools or in situations or programs or whatever type of institution that fit your family's particular situation. We help your counselor help you. So if you've got questions, by all means, reach out to us. We're all available. I'm in my office every day, so I have my direct line. Half of you have my cell number. Half of you are in the team that we have set up. You can do lunch meeting. Miss Caruth, Miss Ayers have posted their numbers, emails. So we are getting back to you as soon as we can. So make sure, reach out and let us know what you need help with. These are some facts about the application. The application process is pretty daunting to some students, to some families if you've never experienced it. But at the end of the day, the applications you're filling in forms with information that you really already know. First thing, they're always accessible online. You go to that college website. I guarantee you somewhere on that front page is an apply now. Just click that. You're going to create an account. It's going to ask you basic demographic information. Name, address, birth date. You will have to give your social security number in most cases for one time only. Then they will switch you to a student number. They're going to ask you where you went to high school. They're going to ask you what classes you've taken. They're going to ask you to declare a major. They're going to look at test scores. We'll talk about that in a minute. And they may have you self-report this information. Other schools will not have you self-report. They'll want to see it from us. But these applications, keep in mind, they're legal documents. So once you hit submit, the only way to correct it is to go through the admissions office. So be careful, just proofread everything. Make sure all the names match. When I say the names match, we have some seniors whose social security card has a different last name than their transcript. Those are the things we have to make sure that you are aware these things have to match. So again, I said go to the college website. You're going to apply online. Every one of you will be designated as a freshman for fall of 2021. I have some of our seniors are going to graduate with enough college credit hours through dual enrollment in AP that they're actually going to be sophomores. But for this application process, we're going to say that you are a first-time freshman. So keep that in mind. Your username and password that you have for your account, make sure you keep up with it. It is only good for the length of time of this application process, meaning until you're accepted or denied, whatever. You're using that to check your application status. If you're using the Common App, and the Common App is a portal where you can do multiple applications at the same time. If you're using that, please let your counselor know. It can be kind of lengthy and there's some different parts to it, and it can get a little confusing. So if you're using that, just let your counselor know. Okay, some of these applications will take less than 30 minutes, and I probably have 30 students apply to the University of Memphis, and half of them will tell you that it probably took 15 minutes. they're not really that difficult. Just keep in mind, we want to do what the application asks. No more, no less. Don't include an essay or recommendation if you don't have to. If you need those, then tell the teacher and the counselor ahead of time. The recommendation is a part of the College Common application that I mentioned earlier, which is why we want to know ahead of time that you're using it. So if we want, like I said, we want to make sure follow the directions. Do not bog down the system that in your mind is a little slow anyway. So we're going to help it along as much as we can. We want to allow at least 4 weeks, and that seems like a really long time in this day and age, but like education hasn't caught up with the rest of the world when it comes to technology. So if you think about that, you've applied to Tennessee State University. Once you hit submit, they're not going to look at it until you pay the $25. They don't take fee waivers. They don't take anything from us that would substitute for that money. They don't care how low your income is. They are not connected to any electronic transcript portal. So if you apply, once you hit submit, you pay the fee, you request your transcript to be sent from your counselor. We get it in the mail. It takes a couple of days. Think about it. Some of you requested on Friday and you're upset that it wasn't done by Saturday. Well, we were not here. So you got to think about it in terms of business days. Then it hits the Postal Service. That's 3 more days. It goes to a mailroom. It gets sorted. It goes to a secretary's desk. Then it gets inputted in the system in your record. Then it hits your account. And that's when the email stops saying that you're missing documents. So you're going to get these I'm missing documents. But if you applied 3 days ago and the transcript's not there, it's not going to be there. Just ignore it. It's not something we haven't done. Fee waivers. If you do qualify for a college application fee waiver, let your counselor know. Some of you know that you qualify, some of you don't. It is all based on what you have put in, the parents have put in at registration in PowerSchool. So you can always double check that, make sure it's correct. It can be edited at any point by the parent through the parent portal. If you are having a hardship and you cannot pay college application fees, talk to the counselor about your individual situation. After we submit, every time you submit an application, it is very important that you tell us that you need the transcript. We've been really flexible. Any way you can tell us, we've been sending it. But each one of the counselors will tell you or we'll correct you if you email us and we want you to use the link. We do want you to use this link. This will take you to the webpage with the college applications, and they'll have a link to each one of us with the transcript request. We have to document everywhere that you're applying, where your transcript's going. So it's much easier if we keep it in one location. What's the transcript? What's on the transcript? First thing, if you think about your transcript, it is a list of every class you've taken since 8th grade if you took high school courses in the 8th grade. It'll have your GPA on it. That's your cumulative GPA. So all of your semester grades have been averaged together, and you will it'll be listed there with your class rank. This is a sample of it. You can see all of our seniors, pretty much, unless you're a 3-year graduate, we have a couple of those, you will have 6 semesters of coursework on your transcript right now. The test scores are now, the last few years, they've started importing over to your transcript in this way, so we don't have to send a separate report like we used to. Most schools will take it from us if you did not request it from ACT. This import process takes a little bit of time, and so for those of you who tested on September the 22nd, your scores have just uploaded to the counselor portal today, meaning that we were able to see them today. So that's not enough time for the import process over to your transcript. So we have to give that a few more days before we can send it to schools. And so that, unfortunately, is a product of the situation we're in, and you have to request that the test score be sent. We're not going to be able to automatically do that. because in many cases you may have put the college on your ACT registration and they already have it. So if you need that ACT score sent by us, then that's something that you'll have to request from your counselor. This is a sample of what an ACT label looks like. You'll have each subscore. What's different about this is that every label is listed separately for each testing. For this one, it's going to be your highest subscores. So this is why usually we send this one first. All right, why do subscores matter? When we think about an ACT as a perfect score of an ACT perfect score is a 36. So each subscore would be a 36 if you made the perfect score. If you do not make what the colleges consider that college readiness benchmark, which we talked about with the honors diploma, if you make below those, you will have to take these learning support classes. They're like enrichment classes. So if you have less than a 19 in math, you're going to be in a math support class. These classes cost you just the same amount of money as every other college class, but you don't get any credit. And when I say you don't get any credit, you get credit on the transcript, but you don't get credit toward your degree. Same thing with English. The difference with English is that if you don't have the 19 in English and in reading and 18 in English, you have to take the support class, but you're allowed to take it alongside your English comp. So that's why these subscores are important, and that's why we want students to test as many times as you can if you're falling below these benchmarks. It is a waste of time and money if you have to go to college and take a support class. I had to take a support class, and I hated it, but I mean, it was something we had to do. What we have here is for students who are in Bridge Math Sales, you are in the support class now. If you met your ACT benchmark with this ACT that you've taken, then you talk to your counselor about some other options. If you didn't, just think about that Bridge Math and those modules, and if you're finishing those modules, you are getting this enrichment class out of the way, so you can start with college algebra or statistics next year when you are in college. This is from the ACT website. Again, English 18 or above, reading 19 and above. That's how they know you're college ready. Math 19 and above for the college level math classes. So each school is handling ACT differently. If they're waiving it or they're not considering it, but if you are one of the students who maybe has a low B, C in math, I would encourage you take the ACT and your math subscore is high and the other three are not. You still want to send that score because that ACT math 19 or above is going to take you out of an enrichment course even though your GPA is on the lower side. So they're giving you these options as far as testing goes, but each school is going to be different in how they address it. So it's just something that we're going to have to try to read or help find out if you don't see it for yourself. Fee waivers, talked about that earlier. They are determined, again, by the income you put in at registration, but it depends on household size, the amount of gross income. I don't know how these formulas are developed. It's just kind of what they give us. If you fall within these categories, we can see it in PowerSchool. When you ask for it, we can say you qualify or you don't qualify. And if you don't qualify, you're having a hardship or your circumstances have changed, then of course let us know and we can kind of direct you through getting that change through PowerSchool. So the college cost of attendance, once you've applied, they've analyzed your transcript, they're going to send you, and it's all published online, is what the cost of attendance is. And that is tuition and fees, books, supplies, room and board. They throw in transportation, they throw in estimated personal expenses. So you're going to get either a letter mailed to your home, or you're going to get the students mailed to the students, or it's going to be in their account, and it's going to list out the cost of attendance. So these are some samples of cost of attendance, and as you can see, they're pretty steep. I put, of course, University of Memphis in there, and their average cost is about $20,000 a year. If you just went straight and paid out of pocket, lived on campus, it's going to cost you about $20,000 a year. So that's $80,000-ish for the total of the 4-year degree, if on time. But look down to the private schools, CBU, Rhodes College, and then I put a couple of out of states that are more popular schools that students apply to. They're in the high 30s. So the next column, we're going to talk more about Pell Grants and financial aid in a few minutes. The max financial aid you're going to get is just over this amount. I put this amount just to kind of keep it a clean amount, since it's going to be the average that most of you will get. Then I threw in the hope for the Tennessee schools, and there's still this estimated out-of-pocket cost. So these are conversations that we want to have. If you want to apply, I want you to apply. We encourage you to apply because you never know, but we want to stay realistic. When I look at the out-of-pocket cost of Clark Atlanta, it's comparable to it. That is more than I made my first year teaching as a salary. And we want to keep this in mind, and we want to stay away from loans and all of that if we can for our undergrad degrees. So in review, talking about college applications, we're going to start at the college website. There's going to be an apply button. Pay attention to what the institution's admission standards are. That doesn't keep you from applying. You can apply and you can update information later if you meet that. Let's say you're close but not quite there, and then you retest and then you make it. So we just send the new test score and you can get that acceptance. You may not get the scholarship, but you can get the acceptance. So you're going to create an account. You're going to put in an application for 21-22. Keep that in mind. Everything college-wise is 21-22. You're going to pay the fee. After you hit submit, you pay the fee. Look for an email confirmation just to make sure that they've gotten it, and then you're going to submit your transcript request to your counselor, and that's another link to that page. This will all be posted on the website tomorrow for you all to have these links. All right, so we're accepted, we're applied, now we got to pay for it. And one of the ways that we can pay for it is through the FAFSA. When I talk about the FAFSA can be, we can use terms like Pell Grant, free money, financial aid, FAFSA. Those terms are all really interchangeable because it's the exact same form. FAFSA.gov. Make sure you're using the .gov. If you're on the .com, they're going to ask you for, they're going to have you pay a price, and there's no charge for this. It's completely free. And then they're not really even helping you if you're on the .com. So FAFSA.gov. Before you start, you need access to your 2019 tax returns. The FAFSA opened October the 1st, and we like the deadline of February the 1st. So we think about those months as our range of time that we want to get this done. You don't have to wait until you file 2020. You can do this now with 2019. And if you don't file 2020 until October next year, you still can be eligible for financial aid using 2019. Family discussion about financial needs and planning accordingly. Inside the FAFSA, you're going to see the IRS retrieval tool. That tool will allow you to connect to an electronically filed IRS to your tax forms. So that eliminates audits, etc. It's just a much more seamless process if you can use it, but not everyone can. Also, you want to make sure you know your social. They will do a social verification in the process, so make sure you put the right one in. Names need to match. If you are currently existing at Central High with the last name that is different from your Social Security number, it is important that you go ahead and contact us this week so we can start the process of changing your name to what your birth certificate, Social Security number says. If we don't, then the money from the government and the school's records, they won't connect, and the money won't appear in your account. So we have to we'll make sure that works. If we can't just change a name here at the school level, so the reason I'm saying we got to do it now is we have to provide this documentation, send it to the board, and they change it at the board. Always, you're going to see your counselor if you need some help. Step one, the first thing is when I go to FAFSA.gov and scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see the FSA ID. And that is what we want to do first. That's your electronic signature. That's the same as having an account. The parent needs one and the student needs one. With a FAFSA, in 99% of the cases, there has to be a student signature and a parent signature. So both of you need this ID. If you as a parent, if you don't have access to this ID any longer, then and you can't use the remote, it may have been that you've been in school and lost track of the account. If there's an older sibling that may have created this account, even without you knowing, that happens more than you would think. We can find other ways to sign, but if you have access to this account, it's going to be a much easier process. So we go back, once we've created this FSA ID and you've confirmed your email or your phone number, they'll send you a text with the code, kind of that thing that almost every account that we create now has that component. You log in with that FSA ID. Ideally, the student is the one logging in at this point. We're looking for this year that the students going to start taking care of their own business, and this is one of those things. You are an important component of this. The start of it, though, can be done completely by the student, and then you can come in later and finish it out. So once we get signed in, there will be two boxes. There'll be a 2021 and a 2122. Keep in mind, you're in college in 2122, so that's the one you're going to pick. Some of you have already done 2021. It's fine. You may use it this summer if you decide to go to school, but remember, we'll be finishing late, so you may not be able to start that. But in the event that you do, then you can use your FAFSA for the summer. Other than that, it's going to drift off into cyberspace. No harm, no foul. The FAFSA is divided into sections. First section is student eligibility. Really basic stuff. Student, the name, social security number, address, that stuff, it's going to automatically populate with the FSA ID. What you're going to tell them is where you went to high school, what year you're going to enter college, fall 2021. Even if you're in dual enrollment now, we don't think of it like that. It's fall 2021, you're a first-time freshman. Males, you're going to be asked to register with the Selective Service. So the Selective Service, people my age and a little older, maybe even a little younger, we think of it as the draft. There hasn't been a draft in my lifetime, so that is really not something to worry about, but it's still federal law. So you have to register with the Selective Service or they will not award you any monies. And you can do it right through the FAFSA instead of I had to go to the post office and fill out a form, or now you can go to the website, or you can just do it through FAFSA. So that's what I would do. The next step, we're going to do the school selection. You're going to have this opportunity to tell the federal government 10 schools that you think you would want to go to. All 10 of these schools are going to be able to access any federal monies that you receive. But in the state of Tennessee, so the money filters from Washington through Tennessee through Nashville. Nashville only recognizes the first school that you list. So it's important that you go ahead and put a Tennessee school, because things like the Hope Scholarship or the Tennessee Promise, they only activate through the FAFSA and if you have a Tennessee school listed first. So if you want to go to Harvard, you want to go to Yale, that's great. You can put them as number 10, even though in your mind they're a first choice, but put them as number 10 because they're still going to see your money. But if you go ahead and put a Tennessee school first, I just saw a chat question about if I'm not applying to a Tennessee school. I'm for this FAFSA. I really hope that let's go ahead and say I have a backup plan. My last of the last backups is that I need to stay in Tennessee for some reason. That if something happens and you don't go out of state, then this money is going to be in place for you if you do this. And again, the out-of-state school that you've listed in your 10 still sees the exact same money as if you had put them as number 1. But the Tennessee schools, they will see more money because they'll see the federal and the state if you put them as number 1. And if you put, let's say, Knox as number 1, and you change your mind to Middle Tennessee State, it's a very simple changeover. going into your TSAC portal. Most of you have a TSAC portal for Tennessee Promise. You'll sign in. On the very front page, it'll say, I want to change my school, and you can change it to the correct school. Dependency determination. So the colleges, government colleges, they want to know where your support is coming from, parent-wise, or if you're an independent. The only way that a college freshman is considered as an independent is if the family is homeless, or the child is homeless, or has been displaced. And that is something we have to confirm. So you will have had to report it to us in most cases. If you haven't, then it will have to be reported to the college that you go to. The other is if you have a child of your own, then you were an independent and you don't have to put in the parent financial information. If you're in one of those situations, again, make sure you're talking to your counselor so we can help you through the process. Let's flip to so next, parent demographics. So you're going to have to talk. They want to make sure they're going to account for every bit of money that you've got. So they want, and it has to be the parent. It's not necessarily who claims the child on their taxes. So maybe the student lives with a cousin half the year, so the cousin claims half support. It doesn't work that way with FAFSA. It has to be the parent. It has to be the biological parent or the guardian assigned by the courts. If you just don't get along with your parents, so you live with someone else, you can't automatically just use their income. They still expect you to use the parent income. If you have no way of getting that parent income, conversation with your counselor will help you through the process to at least get this part done. And just in short, what happens is if you can't declare a parent income, they're not going to award a grant. They're only going to give you a loan in the beginning. Then you provide documentation to the school you're going to, and the school can award the grant, and they won't tie you to just a loan. Parents, if you're divorced or separated, then you only include the financial data for one parent as long as you are both still single, or the parent that the student lives with most of the time is single, then it's one income. If the parent that the student spends the most time with is remarried, then you have to use both incomes. It doesn't matter if the new spouse has adopted the student or not. It is both parents. So keep that in mind. We usually recommend that if the court recognizes a split in custody, even if the child doesn't spend most of the time there, then each of the parents work out which income would be the best fit for the student, which income would be the most benefit for the student. So we let y'all figure that out. It's not something that really gets audited in my experience, just making sure that it's the parent, it's a biological parent. If you are going to what's considered a no-debt school, Rhodes is a no-debt school, WashU is a no-debt school, they're going to kick in, they're going to want some more information about the second parent. And again, these are conversations that you're going to want to have with your counselor. It doesn't affect most of our students, so I'm going to let you all talk to us individually, and this will include things like the CSS profile. So once we get to the financial information, and this is what I was talking about earlier. You're putting in information from your 2019 taxes from the 1040. Or you can use this IRS data retrieval tool, put in information, demographic information that is tied to your electronic filing from the 2019 taxes, and it will automatically populate. And when that happens, the process is much faster, it's much smoother, and the student is not subject to an audit by the college. If you manually enter these numbers, then the college is going to ask for an IRS transcript to confirm that the numbers that you've entered are correct. You're also going to be asked about assets, both parents and the students. In most cases, these are zeros in my experience, but make sure you pay attention to each one and disclose what you need to. Next, and that's sign and submit. Once you've finished all this financial section, you're going to sign this puppy with your electronic signature. If you've signed in with your FSA ID, Whichever one signed in, it's automatic. The second signature, there's a place there for you to sign in, and it will take care. It'll say you agree to their terms. You hit submit, and the next tab is going to show all of the schools you've picked. And if you scroll to the bottom, you will see any eligibility for monies, whether it's a grant, whether it's a loan, whatever they're offering you, you'll be able to see it. I know that was a lot through an application, and it's not something, it's a little abstract. You don't have a real example in front of you. You don't get screenshots unless I actually went through and tried to apply for a financial, tried to apply for a loan, or for me to get real-time screenshots. So we are going to have the workshops if you get stuck. I promise you it took me longer to talk about it than it will for you to fill it out if you just have everything ready to go. The max Pell Grant that any student can get this year is $6,345. That's the max. It's divided by 2 for each semester, so 3,100 whatever that comes out to. It is based on the expected family contribution. All that information that you've put in, the government has some formula that we don't really know that will determine how much money you can contribute to your child's education. For many of you, it's going to be 0. You'll see an EFC of 0, and that will generate this Pell Grant of about $6,325 or the $6,095. Sometimes that little extra kick for students who are first generation, college students, or any other type of unique group maybe that they fall in, that can determine the amount of money. And sometimes they even come down to the age of the parent, how much money is given. Like I said, there's no one can stand in front of you and say, this is how we do this. You also, it's going to say, if you answer the question that you're a first-time freshman and going part-time, your money's not going to be this, it's going to be much less. But that sign and submit, scroll down, you're going to see everything you need to see. And if it looks off to you, you can go back and look at those questions and put in a different answer. You can edit anytime. So I'm going back to my original slide about cost of attendance just to show you again. If I take that $6,000 off, so one of my chats was I'm not going to a school in Tennessee. So let's say you get the full Pell Grant and you go out of state. That Pell Grant's going to follow you across the country. That school will be able to access it. It doesn't matter though where you are. It's only going to be, the max amount is going to be $6,395 or $45. So it's going to take you. That's all you can subtract from this cost of attendance. And if you're out of state, you don't have this Hope or the Tennessee Promise to rely on. So we are, like I said, we're going to have the FAFSA workshops. We're doing each of our caseloads by last name. We're going to do it by appointment, of course. We can't do the workshop of the past because of the financial information, the privacy. So we want to make sure. We'd rather do this just one-on-one. We can share screens or however you want to handle it if you have questions, and we can help you through the process. We will have appointments available after school as well in the evening, more afternoon, evening time, as we get a little closer to this tax time when this is really on your mind. I like to throw in a technical thing. We always talk about college. We don't do a whole lot of career talk, and it is really important, I think, that we talk about both, that you can make a really great living, a great career out of programs that require a technical certificate. And the technical certificate is going to take you less time and less money. And of course, the training is different. It's not so, of course, there's books, but it's not as academic. It's not as it is a hands-on experience where I'm using my hands to do something or build something or put something together or fix something. If you are the student or you're the parent of a student and you know that student has passed every English class but never read a book that was assigned, or never did homework, or made straight D's, hated every part of school except for PE and maybe the nutrition class where they cooked. The chances of them enjoying a college experience are pretty slim. They may like that social side, but they're not going to like the 15 to 18 hours a week that they're spending in a class. So look at these programs. TCATs are great. Tennessee College of Applied Technology. There's one here close to St. Jude, and they're building one in Bartlett. They have all types of different programs, and the Tennessee Promise Scholarship will cover every bit of the cost. The application process is different, so it's something that we probably need to work with individually. Just don't discount this part. Military, so many of our students will go in the military. You think for all different reasons, of course. The biggest thing about the military, of course, is this ASVAB. We are going to have an ASVAB in December. We'll post those dates as soon as they're available. The issue, of course, is we do the online ASVAB and having space to keep the social distancing, so that's kind of been our delay. If you do not want to wait on us, please call that recruiter at any office for whatever branch that you want to be in. They can go ahead and start this process with you. They can bring you in for a practice ASVAB. They can take you for the real ASVAB. You don't need anything from us except the verification that you have graduated. That's the biggest thing. Keep in mind the differences between reserves and enlistment and ROTC scholarships. So reserves, again, that's part-time. You're not in the military full-time, so you can go ahead and be in college at the same time. If you're doing a full-time enlistment, you are going to be waiting to go to college until after your enlistment's over, pretty much. Because after basic training, you may be shipped off to somewhere overseas. You're not going to be able to go to college. So make sure you're getting the right information from your recruiters, and make sure that if you don't understand what they're saying and they're still not being completely honest, talk to one of us so we can kind of clarify it for you. All right, scholarships. So a big thing about scholarships, again, there's just like no way that we're going to know every one of them. So we really do depend on you to take charge of that and find those scholarships that fit you, fit your academics, fit your service record, whatever you're going to major in, that sort of thing. So every student has these different records. Every student has different needs, different resources, and we're right at 400 each. Actually, maybe closer to 3 now, but you know that's really tough, again, to have this idea that I can search for a scholarship for one person based on their academics and what they want to be and where they want to go to school and all these different scenarios. So it really is something that the family, the student, really needs to take charge of, with help from us, guidance from us, because we are a huge part of it, whether it's a letter of recommendation or the transcript. So the Tennessee Promise. Tennessee Promise is relatively new. It's a few years old. It is, the state is giving you, if Tennessee Promise is a scholarship for 2-year programs. The thing about the Tennessee Promise, it's really hard for me to communicate, and I'm not sure how else to say it. The Tennessee Promise only pays for tuition in a 2-year program. So Tennessee Promise will take care of your cost at Southwest, because Southwest Community College everything's a 2-year program or less. It's some type of certificate. So the Tennessee Promise will take care of that. It doesn't matter what your income is. You have to have this application done by November the 2nd, and you have to have done the FAFSA by February the 1st. There's a meeting you have to attend. There's some service requirements. Nothing is difficult, and they'll award that. For some students, the Tennessee Promise may be worth $3,000 or $4,000 a year. For some students, it may be worth $20. We don't know, because what it does is fills in the gap of what the federal government, Pell Grants, and the Hope Scholarship do not pay. It's called a last dollar scholarship, that which, like I said, it fills in the gaps. Examples of that, like I said, is the Tennessee Promise for the 2 years. If you get a full Pell Grant and you get the Hope Scholarship, that may be enough money to cover your tuition at Southwest, so the Tennessee Promise won't actually come into play. If you do not get either one of those, then the Tennessee Promise is going to cover every bit of your tuition. For those of you who, it doesn't matter what we said, that you've insisted on choosing your Tennessee Promise to go to a 4-year university. I'm going to use Tennessee State as an example. Tennessee State has a 2-year program for nursing. If you have chosen that Promise Scholarship is only going to pay the tuition for that program. It's not going to pay for your dorm. It's not going to help with meals and housing. All of that's going to come out of pocket. Even if you have a Pell Grant, you have the Hope Scholarship, and you have the Tennessee Promise, and you think you have all this grand money, but you can only use all that stuff for 1 degree. So I have to use, if you're in this program, that's where your money's going, and they're not going to give you a refund. So the Tennessee Promise will just completely go away. And the Pell Grant, the Hope, can be applied for tuition, but there won't be enough to cover housing and meals in Nashville unless you have family or something you can live with. So keep that in mind. This is a 2-year program. We want at least 75% of our senior class to apply. We do kind of leave out that 25 that we know won't use it. We don't want to bog down the system with students that we know are not going to use it. But for students who are nowhere near or barely near that ACT college readiness, or your GPA is not that 3.0 or higher, you don't have both of those, we're going to push you to do this. We would rather you have this in place and not need it than for that deadline to pass and you all of a sudden decided you needed it in March because you never got that ACT you wanted, and it's not there because this is a hard deadline. This is not a deadline that they're going to give you any flexibility on. You have to have this information in by November the 2nd. We have about 200 students that have fully completed it, and we're targeting the rest of you over the week and up until November the 2nd. The Tennessee Hope, that is our lottery scholarship that you hear so much about. You have to have either a 21 composite on any test date. It's not a super score, so you have to make that 21 on a single test date, or you have a 3.0 accumulated unweighted GPA. They don't take a 2.999. They will not round up. It has to be a 3.0 or higher. The amounts here listed $1,750. In the beginning, it used to be $2,250 across the board. They took off part of the first 2 years to fund the Tennessee Promise, so it's $1,750 now. 2-year institutions, you have up to $1,500 per semester. So FAFSA again by February the 1st. So one of our questions every year is, how do I apply for the Hope? You don't really apply for the Hope. It is automatic once you do the FAFSA by February the 1st, and you've picked a Tennessee school on that FAFSA. The state already knows your ACT because ACT sends it to them. And if you didn't have the 21, as we approach the end of the school year, right at the end, your counselors will go into the system and put your 3.0 or higher into the state database, and that will generate your Hope. But if you're a GPA person, you are not going to get any notification that you've gotten the Hope until after high school, which is after that 8th semester. All right, searching for scholarships. The bulk of the money is going to come from a school. You will see that whatever the financial aid letter you get, whatever the money letter you get, most of that money is going to come from the school itself. That's where most of the scholarships are. What you really have to do as a student is look at that school scholarship page and see if you are applying separately or if it was part of the initial admissions application. Make sure you pay attention to deadlines. For example, University of Memphis, if I want some of their scholarships for their departments or leadership scholarships, you have to be admitted to the school by December the 1st, and you have to have turned in these extra scholarship applications by February the 1st. But you can't even get in to apply to the scholarship until you've been issued a student ID, which means you've applied now and you're getting accepted. You have a student ID, then you can create the account and apply for scholarships. University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Their extra scholarships are going to be December the 1st. So just pay attention to these deadlines. If you need a little extra and you're looking for outside scholarships, we're going to get some of them. When we get them through emails or whatever, we're going to post them to the website. You also, every senior is in a homeroom team in Teams, so the posts are going to be there. I have a team for my kids, my caseload, post stuff there, but there's no way for us to get everything. So searching on your own, of course, I think everybody's heard of FastWeb, but it's pretty generic. You have to filter through the scholarships. Big Future is a little better. You can create a profile and it will really only show you scholarship opportunities that fit whatever you put in the profile, like what your college major is going to be or something specific about yourself. So Big Future, FastWeb, another one is College Greenlight. And these are on the website under the counselor's web pages. You'll see all of this information as well. Tips on winning scholarships, all this is on the website, and it's pretty much pretty basic stuff. The one thing I do want to touch on is the social media accounts. You know, let's clean those up. You can hide this stuff for 1 year. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. I think also, as far as your email, you all have a SES email now. Let's use it for all of this stuff. Let's start moving. Let's start separating what's professional and what's personal. So all of you email me at allredle@sesk12.org, not at the same email where I get my bills and my election, people wanting donations and all that stuff, right? So keep them separate. Do what they're asking. Make sure you meet those deadlines. Understand that every scholarship is going to ask you for something. Nobody's going to give you this free money just because you exist. They want you to do something for it. You're making some agreement. Either you have done X amount during your high school career, they want an essay about why you want this money and how you're going to use it. And these essays are not 30 pages. We're talking about 500 words, which is about a page and a half typed. If you should be able to tell Methodist Hospital gives us $1,000 to give a student every year who wants to be a nurse. And we may have 5 or 6 that will do the application because there's this 500-word essay about why you want to be a nurse. And if you really want to be a nurse, I can't understand why you can't write 500 words on that. I think I can write 500 pages sometimes on why I wanted to be a counselor and give you plenty of examples why and what I saw and what I thought I could do to help students as a counselor versus being a classroom teacher. So keep that in mind. Don't just throw something away because it's 10 minutes worth of work. Application mistakes, course deadlines, make sure you proofread it, follow the directions, don't omit anything. These are all pretty much basic things. So we're going to move from funding. I know I'm talking fast. I don't want to keep us too long. We're already over past 7. So social emotional learning. With the remote learning, what we're experiencing now, what we're seeing with the adults and with the students, this sense of depression, anxiety, being detached, feeling isolated. So we have in place a couple of things. They're always us. As a counselor, based on last names, you're welcome to contact us, have your child contact us. If you're seeing things that are different and we can help, please do that. If you're seeing things maybe with neighbors or other kids or even your own and you feel like it's past what we can do, this link goes directly to the Shelby County Schools Mental Health Department, and there are social workers and school psychologists that are staffed to take these referrals and follow up for students who really need some one-on-one individual attention over a long period of time. Also, you can see there's different videos and things on the SES website about social emotional resources, just things to kind of lighten the mood and not feel so detached. I think that's going to really be a factor this year, unfortunately. Student responsibilities. I alluded to this earlier. We want the students taking care of their own business at school, especially when it relates to what we're doing as counselors and when they have to communicate with us. Transcript requests, Miss Ayers is handling all of our college recruiters. It's going on the calendar on the website. There's a link there for the seniors to sign up. Then after that, they'll get a join link to do a Teams meeting with the college recruiter. Holding yourself responsible for application deadline and trying to work with teachers where you see there's some issues with communication. Never being disrespectful. If you feel like as a student you would be disrespectful, then you're going to hand it off to one of us, or you hand it off to a parent, of course. But we want to try to get some of these things that are just real life experiences for them to handle it. And I'm not saying that parents that you take a step back and you never follow up. And we all know that's not going to work with so many of our kids. They need some follow up. They need to know you're engaged and you're watching. But it helps transition to this time a year from now when a college professor is not going to talk to you. They're not obligated to respond to an email when you ask how your child's doing in their class. Going back to some of the deadlines for letters and things like that, got to give us some time to process the stuff. If you ask for an application or a letter of recommendation on Friday at noon, it's due by midnight Friday. It's just unlikely to happen. So make sure you're planning ahead and looking, and you're staying as organized as you can. And I hope you're better organized than I am sometimes. I wish I could practice what I preach, but do the best you can about keeping up. And the emergencies are going to come up, and you're going to have to ask us for last minute things. And we're pretty flexible about handling those when those happen. But do your best to keep up with what you need and when. Take an honest look at your student, at your child, his or her skills and motivation, your family situation, financial situation, and determine the best route after high school. They're still going to need your support. It doesn't just end. There's no switch when I turn 18 or when I graduate from high school that all of a sudden I have the maturity and independence to handle everything that life is going to throw at me. It just doesn't happen that way. So keep in mind, you're going to have to provide support. You're going to have to be there. So it's important that you're on the front end of these conversations. For the second semester, please stay, I need to say for the second quarter in some cases, but also for the second semester, stay focused and finish strong. Think about your next step. We're going to pass or excel in these classes. Your college acceptances, your plans, your scholarships, they're only temporary. When you get an acceptance letter, that is temporary. That is not a done deal. The done deal is when they get the transcript that has the graduation date on it. So it can still all be taken away. So keep that in mind. Make the second semester meaningful. You have to take 5 classes. It doesn't matter. You're going to be in 5 credit-bearing classes. We have early college classes that most of you have not used your $1,000 that you get from the state to pay for. It pays for 2 classes. So if your ACT is not quite where you want it to be, and you want to go ahead and take this academic seminar class that you're going to have to take anyway when you get to college, you can do it now for free, and you won't have to use your any grant money, any scholarship money, any of that. If you want to be a police officer and you're going to do the Blue Path program, you can go ahead and take criminal justice now, and it won't come out of the Tennessee Promise or any of that. It comes out of your dual enrollment grant. If parents or students, if you're interested in those, this link, if you will let me know so I can get you the appropriate paperwork. Students, again, be independent, take care of your business, but don't take anything for granted. Don't just think we're in a pandemic, we're remote learning, I don't really have to do anything, the teacher's going to pass me anyway, they're going to make her. It doesn't work that way. That is not something that you can count on by any stretch of the imagination. But what you can count on is, okay, I failed the first quarter, or I'm failing now. That I'm talking to that teacher about what interventions are available for me, and you're taking advantage of it. And you're taking care of your business because you know it's important and it aligns with whatever goal you have after high school. This is a survey link. I'm looking for ways to communicate with the class of 2021 to keep you better informed. You are not quite website people. You're not going to pop onto a website and look for updated information. Facebook is kind of an adult thing now, so you're not going to look at that. But this link, if you'll click on it, it's real simple. You don't even have to give me your name. I just want to know what are the best ways to let you know what's happening. What are you going to pay attention to so that you get the information you need? So that's it for the counselors. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry I was a little long-winded. It always is so much information. But thank you so much for your attention. I want to turn it over to Ms. Epps and Mr. McClellan.
Good evening, parents and students. Thank you for joining us. The final few updates for our senior night meeting. We, at this point, have not been given a graduation date yet. As you know, with everything changing on a day-to-day basis with COVID and us returning to the building or not, those things have been pushed back to a June graduation, but we don't have a specific date or location yet. We have been proactive and we have moved all of the senior activities that had been scheduled for the fall to the spring. So anything like the senior picnic that used to be in the fall, we were proactive in moving that activity to the spring. So everything that we normally do for seniors has been scheduled for the spring. All of those dates and confirmations will come when it's time to post them based on whether we are going back to school in person or not, and what kind of contact we're able to have with each other at those times. So nothing has been canceled. Everything has been scheduled. So if we're able to return, we will do everything the senior class normally does. Even the picnic, it has been moved. All right, Mr. McClellan, you got some additions for your senior class?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Epps. So a couple of things we can knock out now. So parents, I know you may have heard some things today that you didn't hear before. Well, a lot of times we give this information to our seniors through announcements, emails, and things of that nature. And we just got to make sure it's being passed on. Seniors, you can visit your homeroom team at least twice a week. You want to make sure you're going there. We do post updates and things of that nature. For example, I do have a couple of deadlines that we can knock out this semester. The senior head sitting deadline is November 7th. That needs to be, you need to call Alfred Studios and schedule an appointment. You know, with everything going on, you just can't show up and say, I'm here to take my picture. So call Jimmy Alfred Studios, do your appointment to sit for your senior heads. Parents, you will return those proofs to Jimmy Alfred Studios. They don't come back to the school. They go back to Alfred Studios, and that deadline is November 14th. Once again, we're going back to homeroom teams. Right now, we're doing senior superlative nominations, and we'll come back in a couple of weeks and do voting for those. But you got to make sure you're paying attention to the announcements. Updates. There are also remind feeds. Our remind feed, we put that on the announcements. You say the code is kind of lengthy. It's 3CB4GD. Again, I will put that on tomorrow's announcements so you can get that a little bit slower format. And also the Central High class of 2021 is the Instagram. All right. So just want to give one message that I normally say to each senior class. So we have a lot of information. We will post a video recording of this so that you can access this information later. But remember, like Mr. Allred said, it's your future. So you have to make sure you have a plan in place. The plan doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to have a plan for how you're going to get to graduation and what you're going to do after June of 2021. We have students come up here all the time asking us questions like, you know, are y'all hiring? You know, do y'all know of any jobs? Or can I still go to college? And these are people that were in the building with knowledgeable individuals, like Mr. McCullough said, for 13 years. And they never had a plan for what they were going to do after the diploma. Remember, the diploma is not the end, it's not the finish line. It's a transition point for the rest of your life. So come see us. We can help you. We are here to help you. That's our job. It's our responsibility. And for many of us, it's our passion. Let us know what you want to do, or if we need to sit down and log on to Teams and have a conversation about how we want to accomplish something, get something in place for you. All right, folks. So that will conclude tonight's meeting. I want to send a great shout out to our Mr. Allred and the counselors for a wonderful presentation. Like we said, a lot of great information presented in a very digestible format. Mr. McCullough and Ms. Epps, thank you all too for joining us, and to all of our parents and seniors. You all know how we end our announcements. Those are your announcements. Please govern yourselves accordingly. And as always, go Warriors.